January 2026 is absolutely stacked. We're talking 11 games dominating tables right now, and we've been playing through all of them. Some are brand new releases hitting shelves, others are Kickstarter deliveries finally arriving after long development cycles, and a few are generating serious buzz for upcoming campaigns. The range is wild, from tiny solo card games to big, crunchy Euro experiences.
And what I love about this list is how varied it is. We've got everything from 18-card solo adventures to heavy Vital Acerta Euros. There's something here for almost every type of player and every kind of game night, whether you lean competitive or cooperative, quick fillers or multi-hour brain burners. January has something for you. Let's just jump straight in.
We have to start with the Old King's Crown because it's sitting right at the top of the hotness charts. This one's been in development for years, and it shows. You're leading one of several factions trying to seize control of a fragile kingdom, and the whole thing revolves around low luck, high interaction card play, and bluffing. The map is divided into 3 regions: the Highlands, the Plateau, and the Lowlands, and each of those regions has 2 specific locations, like the castle and wilderness in the Highlands, or the shrine and necropolis down in the Lowlands.
The core loop there is such a tense lane battler style system. Each round you're placing your faction cards face down next to those regions, trying to read what everyone else is doing in the Highlands, the Plateau, and the Lowlands. Then you flip everything and resolve clashes region by region. Stronger values and clever combos win you the clash, which lets you claim rewards from one of that region's locations. But it's never as simple as highest number wins. Abilities, ambushes, positional tricks, those can completely flip what looked like a safe play.
I had a game where I thought I'd completely locked down the Highlands. I'd committed my best cards there, lined up a plan to grab the castle reward, and then the Gathering faction pulled a nasty reposition effect that effectively restacked the lane in their favor. My safe region went from comfortable lead to absolute disaster in one reveal. The factions all have that sort of personality. Nobility feels rigid and militaristic, leaning on efficient deployments. Others lean into more chaotic or manipulative playstyles.
And the presentation backs it up. The art gives you this sweeping panoramic kingdom with those 3 regions: Highlands up top, Plateau in the middle, Lowlands at the bottom, each with distinct tone and function. The Lowlands, for example, are where you go to manipulate your deck with effects like rearranging cards or recovering from your discard, which matters a lot because shuffling through your deck permanently downgrades your maximum hand size if you do it too often. It's hot now because Kickstarter copies finally landed. People are digging into the depth, and there's already talk of expansions and organized play. It's one of those games where after the first session, everyone wants to immediately change their approach and play again.
From crumbling kingdoms to deep space, let's talk about SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. Here, you're running a scientific institution trying to be the one who makes the big discovery. It's a 1 to 4 player Euro that gets its hooks into you through its structure. You're sending probes to planets and moons, scanning sectors of the sky with telescopes, analyzing data back on Earth, and climbing tech tracks that unlock more efficient actions while your score steadily climbs.
The rotating solar system board is such a clever touch because planets literally orbit around the board. The cost of moving your probes shifts as the game goes on. Every card in your deck is multi-use. You can pitch it for resources, tuck it for income, or play it for unique effects. That's already interesting. But then they layer alien species on top. Each game you pull a couple of species that you might discover. As we collectively find traces, different colors corresponding to different evidence types, we eventually flip that species and unlock shared bonuses and scoring opportunities.
We had a game where one of those species gave strong, immediate buffs, but hammered whoever used them the most with an endgame penalty. I was way behind and decided to be the person who just leaned fully into them. Every time I had a chance, I took that bonus, even knowing I'd get slapped later. The race became, can I get far enough ahead that the penalty still leaves me on top? It came down to the wire, but that gamble paid off. That's the kind of risk-reward tension this design pushes you into.
The turn structure stays tidy. One main action plus some free actions, but your decisions are layered. Do you spend cards now for an immediate action or hold them because they're too good to burn? Do you move a probe that's in a great position just to snag a quick score, risking that you won't be able to get back to that orbit cheaply? In our experience, games sit around 90 minutes once everyone knows the system, which feels right for the depth on offer. It's hot now because more groups are finally getting it to the table and discovering just how thematic and crunchy it is without being overwhelming.
Switching from galaxies to Middle-earth, the Lord of the Rings Fate of the Fellowship takes the whole Fellowship journey and turns it into a tense cooperative campaign. One player might be juggling Frodo and Sam, keeping them hidden and inching toward Mordor, while others handle Aragorn, Gimli, Legolas, Gandalf, and so on, dealing with armies and side quests all over the map. The heart of it is that hope track. If hope reaches 0 at any point, you lose, no matter how close you are to the mountain.
The Eye of Sauron's search is what makes that track feel so fragile. When the Eye looks for Frodo, you roll dice based on enemy presence around him. Certain faces chip away at hope, others bring Nazgul back into play, and you can only shrug some of that off if Frodo is kept to safe havens. We had one game where we navigated almost everything cleanly. Quests completed on time, enemies mostly under control, then rolled disastrously in the final approach to Mount Doom. It felt like watching a perfect run crumble in slow motion until one last card gave us a tiny margin of safety. We squeaked out a win with hope barely above 0.
What I appreciate is how the different characters push you into different roles. Some are great at mustering and moving troops, some excel at supporting Frodo's path, others are about events and tactical tricks. Between variable setups and how different combinations of player counts distribute those roles, you end up with a lot of replay without the game ever drifting away from the core story beats. That's why it's spreading so quickly in co-op circles right now. People are discovering you can have those big cinematic Lord of the Rings moments with a rules system that remains clear and structured.
From epic campaigns to something much smaller, Dragons of Etchinstone is a solo design that proves 18 cards can feel like a full adventure. You're an ether mage traveling through 4 regions, tackling journey cards and enemies, trying to reach and defeat a dragon before your time runs out, or your deck is too weakened to continue. Each turn you have 4 cards in your hand, plus a key card from the top of the deck. You select cards to build your action set, choosing an element card that determines initiative and color, a spell that defines the action, and additional cards for support. Every point of damage you take downgrades cards in your deck, so early mistakes echo into the late game. Enemies hit you before you act if their initiative is higher. Some armor types can completely nullify your attack if you haven't matched colors correctly. Then you've got the journey tests, where failing doesn't hurt your health, but burns precious time. I had one run where I breezed through the first 3 regions, confident I built a powerhouse deck. Then back-to-back journey failures in the last region pushed me into the dragon fight before I was ready. I won, but it felt like dragging myself over the finish line with a deck held together by tape.
The Northvale content folds in seamlessly, new dragons, enemies, and events, but you never lose the sharpness of the core system. It's hot right now because Chip Theory's production put it on more radars, and it occupies that perfect 20 to 30-minute solo space. Setup is fast, the footprint is tiny, but the decisions are meaningful enough that you can't just autopilot your way through.
Now let's talk about the Great Sea, which is Garphill Games stepping into heavier, more confrontational territory. You're leading Phoenician city-states across the Mediterranean, and most of your decisions revolve around what kind of power you want to project, military or commercial. On your player board, you track combat, commerce, and temple progress, and victory comes from bringing either your combat or commerce marker up to meet your temple marker.
In practice, that means you're constantly evaluating whether to invest in fleets, troop movements and sieges, or in trade routes, markets, and economic engines. The map is dotted with temple sites that act as anchor points. Controlling those gives you leverage, but stretching too far militarily can leave your trade network brittle. In the preview play we watched, one player leaned hard into trade, building this beautiful engine that generated steady income and points. The other player quietly built a lean military machine, then pounced, taking key temple locations and threatening to close the game out on the warfare track before the economic player could catch up.
That's what makes it interesting in Garphill's catalog. It forces confrontation, rather than letting everyone just puzzle away in their own corner. The card play that drives conflict and development gives you plenty of room for clever sequencing.
But you're always doing that in the context of a live map, where an opponent's fleet position might make your plans suddenly unsafe. It's building buzz because fans of their earlier trilogies want to see what happens when that design team leans into conflict and area control instead of pure optimization.
Speaking of optimization, Speakeasy is Vital Lacerda doing Prohibition-era organized crime. You're running a crime family building speakeasies, casinos, and various illicit operations across Manhattan, trying to be the most successful outfit by the end of 4 acts. The twist is that the game plays out over just 11 total rounds across those 4 acts. You have 4 capos to place in Act 1, 3 capos each in Act 2 and 3, then just 1 final capo placement in Act 4. So every action feels loaded as your available workforce shrinks dramatically over time.
Your personal board starts almost completely undeveloped. Over time, you unlock more workers, better building tiles, extra abilities, and relationships with outside mafia families. Those relationships can be incredibly powerful. Maybe they give you protection in certain neighborhoods or bonuses when you expand, but they usually come with strings attached. Then you add in the hidden scoring from claim tokens tied to specific districts, and suddenly you're looking at a very opaque endgame where you can't quite tell what everyone else is prioritizing.
We had a game where someone invested heavily in Midtown, dropping high-value properties everywhere. It looked like they were clearly in the lead. At final scoring, another player revealed that their claims were concentrated in a couple of less flashy zones most people had ignored, and because they'd quietly positioned their family to defend those spots, they surged past what looked like the obvious frontrunner. That combination of open board state and secret incentives is classic Lacerda, but here it's bundled into a tighter, roughly 90 to 120 minute package, which is why so many people are calling it his most approachable design in years.
Asteria pulls us back into space, but with a very different flavor. It's a 2-player 4X distilled into a small deck and a half-hour footprint. Every card can become a planet, an action, or a resource, and placement rules constrain everything you do. No matching colors or numbers adjacent, plus each row has its own pattern requirements. Victory requires earning 3 points across 4 different conditions. Military dominance worth 3 points, which is an instant win. Exploration worth 2 points, technological expansion worth 2 points, or economic supremacy worth 1 point. So you're constantly thinking about which paths to combine.
The interesting thing in our plays has been how quickly you have to pivot your plans based on what the other player is doing. If they're clearly pushing for military, gobbling up planets, you might have to decide whether to race them on that path or shift to exploration or economy before it's too late. That exploration victory we had, where we both hit the threshold on the same turn and the active player rule decided it, really highlighted how tight the margins can be. It's one of those games where you learn a ton from each loss, because you see the moment where a small decision earlier could have completely changed the end state.
Add in tech tracks and variable alien species, and you've got a lot of replayability packed into a deceptively small box. The board game arena implementation has helped it catch fire because people can play a handful of games back-to-back online, then decide they want the physical copy for travel or in-person duels.
Zenith lives in that same 2-player duel space, but feels completely different. Instead of building a tableau, you're pulling on a literal tug-of-war track for each planet. Play a card into that lane, move the planet toward your side, and try to be the first to pull it far enough to claim it. You're juggling short-term tactical plays with long-term goals, like 3 planets of the same color, or 4 planets all of different colors as your win condition. The cost reduction in each lane is where the system really sings. The more agents you commit to a particular planet, the cheaper subsequent plays in that lane become, which tempts you into deep specialization. But then you have tech tracks, things that let you move opposing agents, exile them, or double dip on certain effects that can punish overcommitment. That game where an early leader held 2 planets comfortably only to get dismantled when their opponents snatched the leader token and started firing off chain, transfer, and exile effects is a perfect example. The board looked stable, then 3 turns later the entire balance of power had flipped.
Because it finishes in around 30 minutes, it invites rematches. The double-sided tech tracks keep games from feeling samey, forcing you to adapt. That's a big reason it keeps popping up for people looking for a new head-to-head strategy game that isn't just another abstract.
Gold Country goes in a different direction. It's Reiner Knizia doing stock and territory in a gold rush setting. The board is seeded with gold tokens, and the 4 mining companies sit in the corners. On your turn, you're placing camps along paths, buying or selling shares, and occasionally scooping up gold when your camps reach those tokens. The trick is that at the start of the game, you secretly draw claim tiles that tell you which companies are actually valuable to you.
That means every visible move, where you put camps, when you sell shares, has this second layer that other players are trying to read. Is she building that line because it's good for everyone, or because that color is secretly worth double for her? In one of our games, the player who seemed obsessed with one color turned out to have stronger hidden payouts in a completely different company, and the whole table realized we'd helped them by propping up their fake priority. The bandit tokens and the hard stop when the best gold is gone add urgency and make the timing of your last couple of turns really matter.
It hits that sweet spot Knizia is known for, rules you can explain quickly, but scoring wrinkles that reward repeated play. With Bitewing behind the production and Beth Sobel's art, it's also got that table presence plus pedigree combo that puts it on a lot of people's watch lists.
Luthier changes gears again and takes us into the world of classical instrument making. Your workshop owners building violins, pianos, and other instruments for famous patrons while also contributing to an orchestra. The twist is in the planning phase. You're secretly assigning numbered worker tokens to action spaces, and only later do you reveal and resolve those spaces in an order that rewards higher numbers.
That makes every planning round a little psychological battle. Do you commit your high-value worker to a critical spot, hoping nobody else is there, or spread out and risk getting bumped to later turn order where the best options are gone? Patrons sit on your workbench, giving you small benefits each round until you fulfill their conditions. When you complete them, they flip and often become powerful, ongoing abilities. But if you ignore them too long, they'll time out and cost you points.
The orchestra board is my favorite part. You're placing instruments, performance markers, and repair tokens into different sections, strings, woodwinds, brass, trying to claim those first chair positions and the points that go with them. In one of our games, someone decided to be the piano person, pouring everything into that section. The other players spread out, doing little bits of repair and performance in almost every section. At the end, that diversified presence squeaked out the win because it triggered multiple smaller majorities instead of one giant one.
Combine that with 3 separate progression tracks, and you get a surprisingly sharp, interactive game under the very polite theme of making instruments for Mozart. It's catching on because it looks cozy, but plays meaner and tighter than people expect.
And then we have Eternal Decks, which is probably the most talked about cooperative card puzzle right now. Everyone has their own small deck and a 3-card hand. On your turn, you must do exactly one thing: play a card into the shared field, generate a jewel by creating a specific pattern in the river, or give a card to a teammate. If you can't do any of those, the game ends immediately and you all lose.
The field has 3 rows, and each row has strict placement rules. No identical numbers or colors next to each other, plus stage-specific constraints. At the far end of each row, you've got Eternals, big, slumbering entities represented by their own mini-decks. As we play cards and push the field toward them, we awaken those Eternals, adding their cards to our decks and flipping their curses. Most curses make life harder until we pay the cost to neutralize them with jewels.
Generating those jewels is the second puzzle. You have to discard particular sets, same color, same number, certain sequences, into the river to earn a jewel. Jewels then get spent to cancel curses and move you toward the scenario's objective. But those jewel plays hurt because they chew through your hand and deck. We had that heartbreaking game where we just needed one more jewel to claim the final star for the scenario win. The card play unlocked the jewel, but also triggered an eternal effect that forced the active player to discard their entire hand. On their next turn, they had no legal move and we lost instantly. It was brutal and absolutely compelling.
Communication is heavily constrained, so instead of table talking full lines of play, you're working off hints, tempo, and trust. That's a big part of why people are putting in dozens of plays. It has the same "let's try that again, we can do better" pull that the crew had, but with a richer rule set and multiple stages that genuinely change how you approach the puzzle.
So that's the slate. 11 games that are all hot for different reasons. We've got dense asymmetric battles, science-driven space Euros, narrative co-ops, compact solo adventures, interactive stock market style games, head-to-head duels, and some very clever cooperative puzzles.